All right, in this video, we are going to look at wrist angles and how they affect certain shots in our short game. Now, there are some things that we wouldn't do necessarily in our full swing when it comes to our wrists, but they're very advantageous when it comes to short game and certain shots. So, first shot we'll look at is kind of our basic, maybe lower to mid flight shot. Maybe it's a 50-50 carry and run sort of shot. Now, what we're going to want to do is we're going to have our hands maybe more opposing each other, not so much turned in a strong grip or a weak grip fashion. We're going to have them almost with our thumbs kind of running up and down the shaft. Now, for a lower type of shot, what we're going to do is we can keep the ball position relatively centered, even slightly back, but in terms of our wrist, the more that we bow or flex this lead wrist, what's going to happen is it's going to actually take off loft of the golf club and give us a little bit of a lower trajectory. So from that motion there, if we keep that bowed wrist, and again, this is a very standard sort of pitch shot, if we keep that bowed wrist the entire time and just rotate, what you're going to find is that ball's going to come out lower, and it might run a little bit more. And even for what I have here is a 60-degree wedge. Now that is common to how we're going to hit most iron shots or shots off the ground in the full swing, is we are going to want to maintain a nice bowed wrist, hit slightly down, compress that golf ball, hit a great shot. Now what happens is when we try to apply those wrist angles and principles to hitting a higher or more lofted shot, this is where we get into trouble, and this is where I start to see a lot of double hits. We start seeing maybe a few yippy kind of chipping strokes is when we bow the wrist, maybe even excessively, closing the club face, maybe de-lofting it a little bit too much, and now we go into a situation where we want to create some height. A lot of things happen. We start hitting the ground beforehand. I've seen it a lot. So what we're actually going to do is we're actually going to use some of the principles that actually open our club face or maybe create more loft in terms of our wrist. So this extending motion where you're actually going to cup the lead wrist. When you cup the lead wrist, it actually is going to, on the backswing, get this face more toe up, and you can actually see the leading edge here is pointed more behind me versus closed. So this is an advantageous position, and really it's created by having more extension or more cupping of that lead wrist. So from there, we get a little bit of a cupping action. That's fantastic. Now, some people are actually able to maintain this cupped wrist all the way through. Some people may need to feel like they actually cup it a little bit more coming through. Now, this is kind of where some of the sort of modern sort of advancements in research have kind of shown us that to hit higher golf shots, we actually need to have that release of the club. And now what most people will call that is a scoop or maybe even a little bit of a flip. Now we're not trying to rotate the club face, but we're really trying to almost throw it underneath. So there has to be some more extending of the lead wrist or more cupping. And actually this trail wrist is actually going to go more flexed and underneath. Now when we do that, what happens is we present the most amount of loft, which will actually decrease the ball speed so the ball will not go very far. Now if we demonstrate that here, now we got to be careful that we're still trying to hit slightly down on the golf ball, but by maintaining an open face and hitting down, now that flight starts coming up higher, and hopefully we can get a little bit more spin. So this is just a couple ways of where the lead wrist and our angles and motions can actually help us in the short game shots where they may not help us in the full swing. So like our previous videos, give this a try. See if this can help you hit maybe a few different trajectories when you're pitching around the green. Comment below and stay tuned for the next video.